It's 7:14, 57 degrees, and if you were watching the show yesterday, we told you about this incredible story of this church in New Jersey.
It was really cool. The pastor there passed the collection bucket back to his congregation. So he took all the donations, for that day, and then he said, listen, I want you all to take an envelope, and he gave out over $30,000 to those that were at the service in hopes that this kind of spiritual stimulus will encourage parishioners to pay it forward.
I love that. That is
a cool idea.
Sweet. Well, here to tell us more about what has happened since that generosity is Pastor Tim Lucas from Liquid Church. It sounds like a club,
right,
in Morristown, New Jersey. And he was just telling us, Pastor Tim was saying he went to school here at Wheaton College, so he's got the old Chicago connection. Good morning. How are you, Pastor Tim?
Good morning, gals. Great to be with you guys.
You too. We said he's the happiest pastor ever. So what made you come up with this idea to give back? Were you watching an Oprah episode? We were trying to bet on what happened.
Well, I think when people hear the name of our church, Liquid, they do assume it's a drinking fraternity or a cult or something. But we call it Liquid because Jesus called himself the living water, and we think church is supposed to be refreshing. So the idea of a reverse offering, we think, is going to be very refreshing to a lot of Americans who are feeling stress and fear about the economy.
Yes, indeed. How has the response been so far? What are people doing with the spiritual stimulus?
Well, it was amazing yesterday. I think people were shocked. When they reached into the offering bucket, some of them looked like lightning was going to strike them.
Right.
I love that your offering bucket, by the way, is a popcorn bucket. Just thought I'd put that out there.
Yeah, we try to keep it a little bit more casual and accessible to people who are maybe intimidated by, real traditional or formal religion.
So what was great about it, too, is that all the envelopes had different amounts of money on it. People didn't know what they were going to be given. Like, what was the smallest amount? Did anyone get, like, $1? Another guy? What was the range?
Well, on a typical Sunday, we receive about $30,000 in cash in those popcorn buckets. And so what we did is we took that and we divided up into 10s, 20s, and 50s, put them in unmarked envelopes so people reached in and pulled out one envelope, and that's what they received. And we challenged them to really creatively invest it to help their neighbors in need.
What are the most creative things you've heard your congregation doing with the money so far?
Sure. We had one woman who does designer cakes, like, the Cake Boss?
Yeah.
She's like the cake queen of Hoboken, okay? And she makes these designer cakes, and it was so neat because she said, Tim, she got a $50 bill, and she said, that's about what it costs to get the raw ingredients to make one of my luxury cakes. But she's going to turn around and sell it for $500, donate the money back to help feed the homeless on the streets of Patterson this fall.
That's all right. Now, you're actually going to also be kicking in some more cash and doing other projects related to Hurricane Irene. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, we're going to add to that $30,000 we just gave away on Sunday an additional $60,000 to do three things: help rebuild a homeless shelter in Morristown, New Jersey, feed the homeless actually all the way through Christmas, and then help some of our neighbors who were flooded out by Hurricane Irene.
Okay, Pastor, I have one question, only because it's natural and it's human nature, even at church or synagogue. Did anybody complain?
Oh, I think people, they were like, is this a bribe to get people to come to church? Or, a spiritual bailout? I mean, and I was like, let's be realistic. $20 isn't going to turn someone's life around magically. But what we do hope is it helps people maybe shift where their trust is. Every bill in our economy says, "In God we trust." And we see a lot of people looking to Washington for the solution, when the reality is when you trust in God, He gives you resources to help your community and your neighbors in need. We're supposed to be the solution. That's where
preach,
the recovery starts.
Pastor Tim, preach.
Come on now. You remind me of Joel Osteen in that, like, modern, hip kind of, like, you feel like you want to get involved because you're so positive,
We have some great people there. They're taking the two best God-given resources we have, which are creativity and compassion, and joining them together. And I think we can really change our community and start the recovery right here.
All right, Pastor Tim, we're going to pray for you, darling. You have yourself a very blessed day. And
God bless
good luck.
You, gals.
We're going to check in and see how this goes.
Sounds good. Thanks so much.
Okay, talk to you soon.